So over the past year or a little bit more than a year or so, I've gotten a lot of great suggestions from all of you out there for games to cover in the Philosophy and Ethics in Games series. And a lot of games that maybe I've never even heard of before or wouldn't have even thought about. And I've been keeping a running list of all of those games and keeping a list of who suggests them and when so that I can, credit people where credit's due when we get to that point. For the most part, a lot of the games I've covered over the last year, though, have been games that I had heard about, but maybe hadn't really thought about, were up my alley, the games that I really didn't think that I would have liked very well. But just about every time, that's turned out to be the opposite. When you look at something like The Wolf Among Us, when I played The Wolf Among Us, I loved that. Was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed that game, and I didn't think I would prior to. Really, the reason I played that one was because it was a Telltale game, and I wanted to follow up The Walking Dead with another Telltale game. But even other games like Detroit Become Human, which I had several suggestions for, Life is Strange, I had a few different people suggest. And the Last of Us was the most recent one that I've covered, part 1, that I had a bunch of people suggest that I play, and that I didn't necessarily think that I would have enjoyed ahead of time, but I actually rather did. Even the games where I thought, could have been better. Life is Strange was one of those that I thought the writing could have been a lot better, but I still enjoyed the game overall, and it was a lot of fun to cover. And that's been true for the most part with every game that, and hopefully that comes across in the Philosophy and Ethics series when I put those videos out, that I really do enjoy talking about those things. But recently, there was one game that was supposed to actually come out today. This was supposed to be the day that the Philosophy and Ethics in Games cover of Cyberpunk 2077 started. And I figured that would probably be 3 or 4 episodes, maybe a couple more. I wasn't 100% sure. I had to get through the story because I wasn't sure how long the story would be and all, typical planning stuff for YouTube, right? But as you'll notice, this is not a Cyberpunk 2077 breakdown. And there's a reason for that. I tried. I really did. I tried over multiple play sessions, multiple hours, trying to get into the game, to enjoy it, so that I could finish it, so that I could cover it, and I just couldn't. And there has been a few of you over the course of the last year that have asked me to cover Cyberpunk. So I figured I owe it at least a little bit to talk about why I'm not covering it, at least right now. So there's a couple of different reasons why I couldn't get into the game. And one of them, I think, is more of a aesthetics thing. I just, when I was walking around in the world, I was playing through the game, and it just, I couldn't get into it. I didn't like the characters. I didn't care about the characters at all. I didn't care about the world. The city looked so gloomy. I didn't like the way the game felt. Now, normally that would not be something that would make me stop playing it, especially when I'm trying to cover it for the Philosophy and Ethics in Games series. That would just be something that I would chalk up to, okay, well, this just isn't my style. But there was something else there. And it took me a while to think about it and kind of really put my finger on exactly what that was. And I think it has to do a lot with the way the world is currently. So with all of these games, as you all know, if you have been around for a while, I don't cover them from the lore perspective. I don't cover them from the in-game universe type of stuff. I try to connect them to the real world. But with Cyberpunk, when I was doing that, all I could think of was the dystopian future that we could wind up in realistically in a lot of ways. Now, the cybernetic implants and stuff like that might not wind up being a thing, but the high unemployment rate, the high cost of living, the way that the world works, and the way the almost lawlessness of things in the city, the way it's locked down, and the authoritarian way of running things. And I look at all of that, and I look at the world around us, and I see a high cost of living that just keeps getting higher. I see wars starting all over the place. I see authoritarian tendencies and government lockdowns and that kind of thing. And I think to myself, holy shit, this could be a real thing. And it's one of those things where I have already spent the past year and a half, a couple years really, trying to come to grips with the way that things are out there right now and how bad things have gotten, especially compared to when I was a kid or the future that I envisioned having at some point. I had always envisioned a future where my kids grew up and my wife and I got to go and travel and do things and see the world and that kind of thing. And that's looking less and less likely by the day, if for no other reason than the economy is in shambles right now. But also, like, the world has changed so much. And so when I tried to play Cyberpunk, I would sit down and I would look at it and I would say, man, this is really depressing. Like, it made me feel physically ill just trying to think through the story and play through it. I couldn't bring myself to continue doing it. And if I had forced myself through the story, if I had forced myself to play through and do it anyway, that would have shown in the final product. When I finally released the videos, when I finally put them out, I wouldn't have wanted to. It would have been a forced thing, and it wouldn't have really done justice to the game, because I don't think the game is a bad game. To be clear, if you love Detroit or Cyberpunk, or if you enjoyed Cyberpunk 2077, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't think that you're bad. I don't think that the game is necessarily bad on its own. This isn't a review of like saying, oh my God, it was just the most horrible game. I've seen some people talk about it and talk about how they didn't like it for one reason or another. This isn't one of those, because realistically, I didn't give it what would have been considered a fair chance by a lot of people. But it's just one of those things that I just couldn't do. I couldn't get into it. And so I wanted to talk about that for a few minutes, because it's something that especially when I have a lot of people that are asking me to play a specific game, not every game's going to fall into games that I enjoy necessarily, but I'm going to try to push through them, even if they're not my favorite game in the world, simply because just not liking a game isn't a reason not to finish it necessarily. At least for the philosophy and ethics in games series, right? But Cyberpunk was something completely different. Maybe someday, maybe things will get better. The world will get to a better place, and things will be good. But for right now, what I need more than anything, and I think what a lot of people need more than anything, is some kind of hope. And I tried to share some of that. I tried to put out some posts and stuff like that to try and bring a light to the world in a way, because that's the whole idea on my channel in general. But philosophy and ethics, obviously it's to tie real world things and use games as thought experiments to talk about real world things, games, movies, and TV shows. But at the end of the day, the whole idea behind it is to try to bring a light, to try to bring some hope for a better world, for a better future. The idea of, hey, if we do these things, if we focus on these things, we can actually make our lives better, the lives of the people around us better. We can work, ideas like promoting the idea of community and everybody getting out and working together, helping out your neighbors and looking out for one another. Those kind of things, I think, are the one thing that give us a bright beacon of hope for the future, and the things that we can kind of look forward to. And that's the stuff I want to focus on. And when it comes to Cyberpunk, when I'm sitting there playing it and I'm looking at this dystopian idea of the future, and this idea of, everybody is in like a struggle and a fight to get cybernetic implants. And everybody is like, the world is this big authoritarian situation. The government is spying on everything you do, and if you say or do the wrong thing, the wrong people come after you. Criminals run everything. Like, that is just not a world that I want to live in, and that's not a world that I really feel comfortable talking about right now. So next week, getting back into normal philosophy and ethics in games videos, we're getting into Assassin's Creed Black Flag, and that's actually been a lot of fun. I have never completed the story because I always get sidetracked running around and getting stuff to upgrade my boat and that kind of stuff. So this is going to be my first time like completing the story, and so I've been working through it, and I've gotten a little further than I ever got in the past. And I'm really looking forward to covering that game just because it's so much fun. It's a different type of thing. So that's going to be starting next week. Meanwhile, we're going to have other videos coming out talking about things like the Walking Dead show, because even though those are post-apocalyptic, and you would think post-apocalyptic would be depressing, but actually in some senses it's a lot of fun to think about, like moral conundrums and stuff like that in the Walking Dead show and The Last of Us, and how to handle certain things like that. To me is a lot of fun. It's something I can really niche into. So I'm enjoying talking about it, and there's going to be more of those videos coming out as we go forward. I'm working on some things with some shorts and all that. So there's a bunch of different stuff coming out. So keep an eye out for all of that. But that's all I got for this one. I want to thank you all for watching. Everybody have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.